The news that you're expecting twins is met with double the excitement, double the dreams and double the plans for the future. But for my guest today, that joy was shattered by the unimaginable news at 34 weeks that one of their babies had died. Nothing could prepare them for the heartbreak that followed. How do you hold joy and heartbreak in the same moment? How do you celebrate the arrival of one precious child while grieving the loss of another? In today's episode, my guest shares his deeply personal story. Hello and welcome to this episode of A Gift for Grief. Today I'm joined by Richard Ganjavi. Richard will share the unique experience of grieving one baby while celebrating the arrival of another. He'll talk about the incredible support his family received and how writing a children's book became a beautiful way of honouring his daughter's memory. It's a moving and deeply honest conversation about love, loss, remembrance and the remarkable strength of the human spirit. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. Now, thank you for being my guest today. But before we start, I must ask, how is your wife, Naomi?
She is doing very well. She is, even before all of this happened, I knew she is one of the strongest people I've ever known. And that has obviously really been tested over the last couple of years. But she's a real warrior. She's so strong and she has just continues to be exactly like that. And she's doing well.
I'm really pleased to hear that. And she's totally comfortable about sharing your experience here on the podcast.
Yes, we both believe it's very important to share our story.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So before we start then, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I am a primary school teacher. I've been doing that for about 10 years now. And I've lived kind of local to Stratford-upon-Avon area most of my life, apart from university. I've been with my wife Naomi for 21 years, I think it is now, wow. And married 11. So
when you both discovered you were having twins, what were those first few months like?
A roller coaster of emotions, excitement, fear. Yeah. I remember when we actually had it was the 12-week scan, we found out that it was twins. And I remember so vividly being in that room. We couldn't see the monitor, and the nurse who was doing the scan, she turned to us and she just said, "So how do you feel about twins?" and both of us just laughed because we thought, oh, this must be what they say to everyone, they're breaking the ice.
Yeah.
And she just said, "No, seriously." And she turned the monitor around and she said, "You've got twins." And we both just sat in silence. We just didn't know what to say, didn't know what to think.
That.
We were not expecting it at all.
Did twins run in your family?
No, not as far as we were aware. And it was only kind of later that day when we went and kind of told everyone.
Yeah.
My dad actually told me that my granddad had twin siblings, but I never knew that because I'd never met these people. So, but that's the only link to twins in either of our families. So, it not even crossed our mind at all. Yeah. So it was just wow. I mean, we left the hospital and we drove straight over to go and visit different family members and tell them, and we just sat in the car silently. And every couple of minutes, one of us would literally just sit there and just go, "Twins, twins."
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was, we had we had a bit of a joke when we found this news out in the hospital. And looking back now, after everything that happened, I kind of wish I'd not said these things. But I remember saying to them in a very kind of jokey way, "Well, that's just doubled the price of everything, hasn't it?"
Yeah.
And, we only ordered one, that kind of thing in a very kind of jokey way.
Yeah.
But obviously, at the same time, absolutely over the moon.
Yeah.
We wondered whether we might want children at all. We decided, yes, actually we do. We'd love to have two. That would be the perfect number of children to have. And then, we find out it's twins, and it's like, well, that's fantastic. We go through this once, and we've got our two children, and but it was just a real mix when we found out of just shock, excitement, joy, fear, but just we didn't really believe it at first. Like I say, we thought it was a joke.
And I suppose they're all normal reactions that people go through when they're not expecting twins. That's just the normal emotion sort of being processed, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it certainly wasn't, oh no.
No.
Oh no, we can't afford this, or no, we really don't. We didn't want more than one. It was just, how lucky are we actually?
Yeah.
What a gift this is. Well, that's what we eventually managed to think after the dust had settled a bit.
Absolutely, you need time to process that.
Yeah.
But was it a normal pregnancy at first?
Yeah, it seemed pretty textbook throughout most of the pregnancy. Being twins, we'd go for kind of scans more regularly than most would go.
Yeah.
But that's standard, because obviously there are other risks. But our girls, that there are different types of twin pregnancy, and they could be both of them kind of sharing the same placenta in the same sac, or you could have two separate sacs and things. And our girls were the kind of lowest risk type of twins.
Right.
They were in separate sacs, each had a placenta, and so they were the lowest risk kind of twins. But we had more regular scans than most, but that's standard practice. And all of the scans throughout, all of the visits that we had to consultants and things, everything was absolutely normal, absolutely fine. Both of the girls growing really healthily.
And was Naomi well in herself?
I mean, she was absolutely sick as a parrot, for the first kind of trimester. And, it transpires that, carrying twins, that's quite a common thing.
Okay.
The sickness is a lot worse.
Oh dear, poor Naomi.
Yeah.
So, but can you tell us about the day of the 34-week scan? But only share what you feel comfortable with.
So, I mean, like I say, everything had been normal, and we had no reason to think that it wouldn't be fine.
So it was just a routine scan you were going to have?
Yeah, it was routine 34-week scan. We'd had a scan at 32 weeks, and they said they wanted to now scan every week, because there was nothing worrying at 32 weeks, but they just said, whereas throughout the whole pregnancy, both of the girls had pretty much grown at the exact same rate. But at 32 weeks, Bella was a little bit behind Penny, but like marginally. And they said it's barely anything at all, but let's play it on the safe side. We'll do scans every week now, and that's fine. But they reassured us, there is nothing to worry about. There's nothing wrong with the girls. It's all fine, but let's just be safe. We'll do a scan every week. So we went for one on 33 weeks. Everything absolutely fine. And then a few days before the 34-week scan, Naomi got home from work, and she was saying to me, I've not been feeling great today, and I've felt kind of these kind of like pulling feelings, and let's just call the hospital and just see what they say. And we did that, and they said, that sounds very common, here's what you could do, just make sure you rest. And Naomi was happy with that. She said, I'll be fine, I'll take what painkillers I'm allowed to take being pregnant, I'll have a rest and I'll be fine. And I just said, not a chance, get in the car, we're going to the hospital.
Wow.
And fortunately she agreed, and we got there, and again, nothing was wrong, but I wanted to be absolutely sure of that.
Yeah.
And they checked on the twins, both of the girls were fine. They did all of the, very invasive, tests on Naomi, and she was fine. So it might have been kind of Braxton Hicks contractions or something like that.
Yeah.
But they were happy that there was nothing wrong. So that was kind of the week before. Then we got to the 34-week scan. And it was quite late on in the afternoon. I think it was about 4:45, our appointment, which all of the other appointments had been in the morning. So we thought that's a bit unusual, but okay, NHS are very busy. We're glad that they fit us in. And we went to Stratford Hospital for the scan. And again, with no reason to think that anything was wrong, we went into the room. They started the scan, and they checked Penny first, and they said, yep, all the measurements fine. We could see her, wriggling around on the screen, absolutely fine, no problem. Then they went on to check Bella. And I didn't really think anything, but I was looking at the screen. I was like, oh, I can normally see something by now, but maybe they're just doing something else. I don't know. Yeah. And then I thought, it's been quiet for quite a long time. And then I looked at the face of the nurse who was doing the scan, and I just thought to myself, she looks concerned.
Right.
And literally the very next second that I thought that, she turned to us and she just said, I can't remember the exact words, but she just said, I'm so sorry, there's no heartbeat.
Oh my goodness.
And I mean, that single moment was the worst moment of our entire lives. And our lives were shattered in an instant. Everything that we'd been preparing for, everything that we'd been looking forward to, gone.
Yeah.
And we were both, because everything had been fine.
Yeah.
And nothing had happened to make us think this isn't going to be a normal scan. And we just turned and looked at each other, and I mean, neither of us could find any words. We both just fell to pieces, hugged each other, and I mean, I think I eventually found some words which was literally no, 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 no. I'm pretty sure that's what I said, because I couldn't accept it at first. I couldn't actually bring myself to believe that that's what's happened.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense, does it?
It didn't at all.
Everything's going so well.
No.
You can't make sense of something
No.
that...
And, the nurse was absolutely brilliant. And, we're not the first people to have had this news broken to us. But, I can look back now and really kind of feel for these people having to break that news.
Yeah.
But she was really, really kind. She gave us a hug, and she contacted Warwick Hospital and just said, you're going straight there.
Okay.
And they're expecting you. I've sent them through all the information, and she checked that I was okay to drive, and I just said, yeah, I'll be fine. And we just gathered our things and we left the room, and I mean, both of us were just shaking, crying, and we left the building, and there was a bench outside, and we both just went and sat there. And I just said to Naomi, I've got to call someone. I've got to, because I can't call around everyone and say, we're going to hospital, this has happened. But one of my sisters, I've got two older sisters, one of them is a doctor. She lives down kind of near Southampton, and she is often the first person I phone for any medical advice.
Yes.
But she was the first person I phoned when I found out it was twins, and I said, I'm gonna phone Zoe, and I'm gonna just tell her and ask her to let people know. And I remember she picked up the phone, and I could barely speak, and I just about managed to get the words out. I mean, she could hear that I was sobbing, And I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said, we've lost one of the twins and we're going to Warwick now.
Yeah.
Could you please let people know? And she did. And then we got in the car and we drove over, and it was a very quiet car ride.
Yeah.
We hadn't kind of packed anything because we weren't expecting to be going to Warwick to stay. And that whole car ride, I just kept on thinking to myself, I don't accept that this has happened. I didn't say that out loud, but in my mind, I was just thinking, they're going to do another scan when we get there. What if there is a heartbeat that's really faint, but they just didn't see it?
Yeah.
And I just would not let that go. I refused to accept it. But actually, that's in my heart, in my head. I knew this has happened. And yeah, we went up into labour ward, and they got us straight into one of the side rooms. Came in and did the scan and confirmed it, and yeah.
Well, it's such big news to hear out of the blue, isn't it? I mean, I never even imagined that this scenario was possible. It must be a very rare medical emergency. I mean, had you heard of this happening before?
I'd never heard of it. Obviously, we knew that there are greater risks with twins,
Yes,
but
yeah.
the thought of losing one of them never crossed either of our minds, especially given how everything had seemed so normal throughout the pregnancy.
Yeah.
But I'd never heard of it. Never heard of anything like this.
No.
I think I'd maybe heard of, people who'd lost both.
Yes.
But I'd never been aware of anyone else who had lost one.
Especially after everything seemed to be going so well. It just doesn't make sense, does it?
No, not at all.
So 2 days after that devastating news, your daughters were born.
Yeah.
What do you remember most about that day?
We were kind of woken up probably about 7 o'clock by the midwives, because Naomi needed to take some medication early on. They came and talked us kind of through, like, this is what's going to be happening. They introduced us to everyone who's going to be in the room, and they talked us through every last detail. And they also were very frank and honest with us, and they said, you need to be prepared for what's about to happen. And they said, one thing that stuck with me was, because obviously it was a C-section, and they said, we are not necessarily going to know which twin is which when they're born, and we may need to resuscitate them, and it may be that we are resuscitating Bella.
Yeah.
It may be that we are resuscitating Penny. It might be that she needs that. And they didn't say these exact words, but this is what they were saying. They were saying, you need to be prepared for the fact that you may lose both.
Okay.
And I think it was probably about 8:45. They kind of took us down to theatre. They kind of wheeled Naomi through, and someone else took me to a side room and kind of gave me all these scrubs that I had to put on. And I was feeling sick with worry.
Yeah.
Just the unknown, the what ifs, hoping, praying that Penny at least would be okay.
Yeah.
Because I simply could not cope with the idea of losing both of them. They took me into theatre where they were getting Naomi ready, and she was pretty much in the zone, to be fair, as she tends to be able to do. She was obviously finding it very, very difficult, but she was right. This is business now. We need to go through with this. So, whereas I walked in and I saw them kind of giving her, attaching all these things to her and giving her medication, and I just fell apart.
That's hard to watch, isn't it?
I was worrying about Penny, whether Penny was going to be okay. I was worried about Naomi, whether Naomi was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I literally fell to pieces. And one of the midwives who was in the room, Jenna, she basically took it upon herself to assign herself to me, and she put her arm around me and she sat me down, and she did not let go of me until the last moment where she actually had to go and do her job.
Yes,
But having someone there for me made a huge difference, and that has stayed with me ever since. The care that was given not only to Naomi but to me as well.
Yeah.
The fact that they acknowledged that and placed importance of that as well, on that as well, meant so much, and I needed that.
Yeah.
Because I was not coping at all.
Well, it's so important, especially at a time like that, to receive that kindness.
Yeah. No, and I really needed it. And then, we went through the procedure, and I went and sat with Naomi up by her head, and I was just trying to talk to her throughout.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what to expect. And I remember hearing the midwives saying, "Oh, look at all that hair," and I thought, okay, the tone of voice was quite good.
Yes.
That's the first thing. And then they held Penny up. She wasn't making any noise at all, which a part of me was concerned by, but also a part of me was like, actually, that's quite normal. You can't. It's not like the films where they come out crying and screaming.
Turn them upside down and smack them on the backside.
Yeah, we'll do that later. But, they showed her to us, and I was just thinking, right, they wouldn't have shown her to us if she wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And then they talked us through everything they were doing. And, they said, oh, both of the girls are beautiful. And they said that. And they took the girls kind of out of sight to kind of check that Penny was okay, and just clean Bella up and kind of wrap her up and things, and swaddle, and then a couple of minutes later they came and gave Penny to Naomi, and they lay her on her chest, and this little girl was there with us and alive, and
Richard, so amazing.
it was, I can't describe it. The relief that Penny was with us and she was okay, the relief that Naomi had got through that, really serious procedure. A lot of people forget how serious a C-section is.
Absolutely.
The fact that she had got through that, I was able to breathe something of a sigh of relief to a point.
Yeah.
And just be in that moment of, here is my daughter.
Yes.
And it was just like no feeling in the world. At the same time, I'm thinking they should be passing Bella to us now, and she should be wriggling around with her sister. We should be holding one each. Yeah, that's not what happened. And in the days before the C-section, when we knew that we'd lost Bella, and we were thinking to ourselves, are we going to be able to actually bring ourselves to hold Bella? Obviously, we will be allowed to, but will we be mentally strong enough to do that? And we weren't sure. We hadn't decided. We weren't sure whether we would be able to actually look at her, or let alone hold her or spend time with her. But after the C-section, they kind of wheeled Naomi into the next room, and then they took Penny down to the special care baby unit, SCBU, which was like the next kind of room along.
Yeah.
So, because they said she's going to need to be in here for a little while, not because there's anything wrong, but just because of everything that happened. We don't know what has caused Bella to not be here, and so we need to take every precaution. We need to do a lot of tests, but she'll be looked after in here, and you can be in here as much as you want to. I then went back through, and they had Bella there, in a little cot, little crib, and they'd wrapped her all up, and she had a little hat on. It was surreal.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that we got to see her, because I don't know what I would have done if I'd not been able to see her or hold her or give her a cuddle. And it was a really strange feeling, seeing Bella, our daughter, Penny's twin sister, there. She's been born, but not there.
Yeah.
And they put her in a special cold cot, and Naomi and I just sat with her and just looked at her and just kind of like, I think I put my hand on her head, on her little hat, and it was just, not something that I can really describe. But they then kind of took us back to the room on the labour ward where we'd been staying for a couple of days, and they said, "Do you want Bella to come in here with you?" And I don't think either of us hesitated. We said yes.
Yeah.
And they just wheeled the cold cot through, and they just put it next to Naomi's bed, and she just lay there with us. And I would regularly throughout the next couple of days just go and sit next to Bella's cot and just stroke her head or hold her hand. And obviously it was, being in a cold cot, it was, her body was really cold, and that was a really difficult thing to feel. But I felt very much Bella is here, and we got to take her out and give her a cuddle, and the hospital arranged for a photographer to come in on the evening of the day they were born, so we could have family pictures, all four of us together.
That's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, and so we've got this set of photos which are very, very precious to us, and we don't show them to anyone else.
No.
We show off photos of Penny to everyone who wants to see them, but the photos of Bella, we don't show to anyone. Yeah. They are for us. So Naomi and I have them, and we will show Penny those photos when the time is right. But that was the day they were born.
Yeah. Do you know, these cuddle cots are incredible, aren't they? Yeah. They're specially designed cooling systems that allows the parents and families to spend more time with their baby that has died, whether it's through stillbirth or something else. Yeah. I did have a guest on episode 19, a lady called Sharon Luca Hather. I'm not sure if you know about her work.
No.
So she had an experience that was quite dreadful, actually, because she found out her son's heartbeat had stopped at 36 weeks. And from the moment she found out her son's heartbeat had stopped to the way the hospital cared for her during and after the labour, her son was taken away, and she didn't get to see her son for 9 hours. And she could hear the cries of other babies being born, knowing that her baby had died. And she talks openly about it on the podcast. But since her experience, she's turned her pain into purpose through creating the Luca Foundation. And she's gone on to give the gift of time to thousands of grieving parents by ensuring there are enough cuddle cots to service every maternity unit in the UK. Yeah. So no one else has to go through what she went through. Yeah. And to hear that Bella was in a cuddle cot, it's sort of, that connection. It's incredible that it gives people like you time with the children, because you need to create those memories. And it's good to hear that you both had time with Bella to make precious memories and to help process the enormity of what happened. It's good to hear that you had that experience, but how do you begin celebrating Penny's arrival while grieving Bella at the same time? How do you even start to process that experience?
I still don't know. It was very much, you've got to take things a day at a time. You've got to take things an hour at a time, 10 minutes at a time, and just allow yourself to be happy, though.
Yes.
I think that's a really important thing, because especially as the parent of a surviving twin, when you've got one of your children there, that's the most wonderful thing in the world. People say, the day their children were born was the happiest day of their lives. Well, I often ask myself, what would I say is the happiest day of my life? And, obviously our wedding day up until that point was always that. And I think now, is it still my wedding day? Because that was pure happiness.
Yeah.
Or is it the day that the twins were born? Because we got our girls, and Penny is with us and is thriving, and we've got to celebrate that.
Yeah.
But you feel guilty for allowing yourself to feel any happiness.
Yeah.
Because, I remember in those kind of first few weeks, anytime I even smiled, let alone laugh, I'd stop myself and I would basically be telling myself, you're not allowed to do that. You should be feeling sad. And that's not how grief works. I've learnt that now. But people who've not gone through it might hear the word grief and think, well, that's just permanent depression. That's what grief is. Well, it's not. It's absolutely not. And you've got to let yourself be happy, even when you're grieving. Because there are things to be happy about. Obviously, in our situation, we had Penny. But we found a lot of happiness in the fact that we got to spend time with Bella.
Yeah.
And that time we had as a family of 4, that was a happy time. Even though Bella wasn't there,
Yeah.
she was. And we were a family of 4. And that is one of the most precious memories of our lives that we will never forget. But balancing, the sheer agony of losing a child with the absolute elation of having a child at the same time, it just messes with your head. And you just don't know how to feel. So you just got to let yourself feel whatever you feel you need to feel, just go with it. If you want to feel happy, let yourself feel happy. If you want to cry, that's fine. If you want to feel angry, let that anger, feel it.
Yeah.
Don't push it to one side. And there was a lot of anger that I was feeling. There was a lot of anger that Naomi was feeling about the whole situation. Anger at ourselves, because, I had to regularly say to Naomi, especially in those early weeks and months, this is not your fault. None of this is your fault. You did everything right. The pregnancy was really good. And actually, well, we did find out what caused what happened to Bella, and it was a freak tragedy, basically. It wasn't really something that you can, it's not something you can predict or prevent. It was a freak event. And we've just got to remind ourselves, we should not be feeling guilty, either of us. But there is that anger. There's anger at the world. Why do these things happen? Why does it happen to us? We're good people. Why, you see people who, they're not nice to their children, and they're allowed to have twins. It's not fair. And, even now, we'll see, whether walking down the street or on a TV programme, people with twins who, they're ignoring them, or they're not showing them the love that they should be showing their twins. And that makes us, this is just not fair.
Yeah.
Why has it happened to us who would have loved and cherished both of our girls? So there was every emotion going.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my kind of message to anyone, and I say this to the children that I teach, we do a lot of work on emotions and recognising them. Let yourself feel it.
Yeah.
Never ignore an emotion, because that will just lead to more problems down the line.
Yeah.
Learn how to manage your emotions, yes, but don't ignore them. There are emotions that are not nice to feel, like anger and sadness and anxiety. Those are not nice emotions, but they are still emotions that we need to feel. So learn how to manage them, but don't ignore them.
Yeah. It's so refreshing to hear you speak, because it's such wise words. I say to everybody, feeling is healing. It's so important to feel it all, every emotion, the good ones and the bad ones, because it's all part of the process, isn't it?
Yeah.
It needs to move through your body.
Absolutely.
And it's not just in your mind. We hold it in our bodies, don't we? And so anything that helps us to move it, to go through that process, to move forward is healthy. Because it's so, people sometimes, I'll deal with this tomorrow, I'll forget about it, I'll suppress it, I'll push it down. But it never goes away. It's there, and it needs to be felt and processed.
Yeah.
So very wise words, Richard. Thank you very much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Now, you speak so warmly about the staff at Warwick Hospital. What did they do that made such a difference?
They were, from the moment we arrived, 2 days before the girls were born, the moment, we just found out this awful, awful, awful news. They were gentle, understanding, caring, but genuine. They were really genuine. It wasn't, I will care for you because it's my job.
Yeah.
It was, we are caring for you because we actually do care about you.
Yeah.
We had staff coming in on their days off to visit us because they were invested in us. They cared about Naomi and myself and Penny and Bella, and they would talk as if Bella is a member of the family, which she is. They would not dismiss Bella. They would talk about Penny and Bella as if they are both alive. But it really felt like they became family to us. I mean, we were staying in Warwick for probably a couple of weeks, and they never kind of we never felt like, well, they're forcing us out, they need this room. We were in the high priority room.
Yeah.
But they were just so incredible. They would go, they'd come and see us, in the morning after the girls had been born, and Penny was staying in Skaboo, and they'd come through to us in the morning and they'd say, Penny's doing really well. And just so you know, I started my shift at midnight, and the first thing I did, I had to go and see her.
Oh.
So I hope it's okay, but I went and saw her and I gave her a cuddle. Is that okay? I was like, of course that's okay.
That's so
But
heartwarming, isn't it?
It really was. And we felt straight away, we absolutely trust every single person who works here. So even though we were only across the corridor from Skaboo, we trusted they were looking after Penny.
When you say Skaboo, what is Skaboo?
Yeah, so special care baby unit.
Of course, yes.
I say it as if everyone knows it, but we'd never heard of Skaboo. In fact, the first time they said it, was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But so special care baby unit.
Okay.
But we had absolute trust in them. But that's because they were such genuinely, wonderfully caring, kind people who, it's not just a job to them.
Yeah. They're real angels, aren't they?
They absolutely are. They're incredible. Every single one of them. There was not one person who didn't kind of fit that description. They were all incredible.
Well, that gives you some comfort, doesn't it? But you, two midwives who you struck up this incredible relationship with, who are now Penny's godparents.
Yeah.
How did that relationship develop?
Well, I mean, we had and still have a very strong relationship with a lot of the staff there. And, we still go and visit Scaboo and Labour Ward. And there's a rainbow garden at Warwick Hospital for babies who are no longer with us. And Bella's got a little purple leaf, a little glass leaf on that tree, which is provided by another charity called Jasper's Rainbow, I think it's called, or I should really know that.
Well, I'll check it out and put it in the show notes for people to...
But they kind of provided and created the Rainbow Garden and provide parents who've lost a baby with the opportunity to have one of these glass leaves added to the tree, and it's there. So every 6th of August, which is the day we found out that we'd lost Bella, we always go and sit in the Rainbow Garden. Anytime we go over to Warwick, we'll go and visit the Rainbow Garden. Chloe and Jenna, the two midwives who we were really, really close with. So Jenna, I've mentioned briefly already. So she was the midwife in theatre who came to me. Right. And she looked after me. Yeah. But she was also, she was part of the team who delivered our girls. And she came to see us just to see how we were, to see how Penny was, to say hello to Bella. But she just seemed like just such a genuinely caring, lovely, wonderful person who we just kind of got on with straight away. And there was just something about her that just seemed, you're a really special person.
Yes.
And, the care and the love she had for our girls from the word go. And she saw our twins before even we saw our twins. Yeah. She just, stood out straight away. And then, while we then spent the next couple of weeks there, she would always come in and see us when she was on shift. She would come and say, I've been to visit Penny for a cuddle because actually I've had a really tough week and I needed a Penny cuddle. And, that was just so lovely. Yeah. So that's kind of Jenna. And then Chloe. So Chloe is the midwife who was kind of in charge of looking after Naomi, and me, I suppose. On that first night, we went to Warwick, and she was with us overnight, and she came and did all of the checks every couple of hours to listen to make sure Penny's heartbeat was there. But again, she's just someone who just the way she is with people, it's just like you are. And you probably don't realise this, but you are an incredibly special person. Yes. The way that you speak to people and strike up this bond with people, you can't teach that. Yeah. And she was so caring and so gentle and understanding with us the whole time, all throughout that first night. And when we found out that she'd be back for the second night, we were so pleased. Yeah. Yes, we've got Chloe again tonight.
Well, it's people like that help you get through these awful...
And she did. Yeah. Because, those 2 nights, we still didn't know whether Penny was going to be okay. Okay. So we had all of that fear and anxiety and, what ifs and things. And she was just that calm, reassuring voice who was just loving and kind. Yeah. And like Jenna, we knew this is someone very special who we want to be a part of Penny's life as she grows up.
So they're part of your family now.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could look at it like that, we, a lot of people when they're choosing godparents, they choose family friends. And we thought, well, we're going to choose some of our friends, we know really well. But these are Penny's godparents. It doesn't matter if we don't actually know them that well or haven't known them for long. They have been a part of Penny's life
Yes.
from the very start, and a huge part of Penny's life from the start. And it only seemed right that we asked them to be godparents to her, and we're so glad we did. And
that's so lovely.
They are just, both of them, very, very special people to us.
That's a big shout out to Jenna and Chloe.
Absolutely right, yes.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, you also felt very well supported by the Lily May Foundation. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, so the Lily May Foundation, we were provided with a really beautiful memory box. The day that the girls were born, the bereavement midwife, Bessie, who again was absolutely superb, as was her colleague Lizzie, both of them amazing at what they do, given how tough their job is.
Yeah.
But Bessie brought this box through to us, and she explained what it was, and we opened it, and you've got these beautiful kind of gifts inside. So you've got a tablet with kind of clay in, so you can get handprints and footprints of both of the girls, which we've got. And they help you do kind of handprints, kind of like with some like ink and things. And you get a really nice diary, a beautiful book called Wherever You Are, Our Love Will Find You, which I read to the girls together just before we kind of let Bella go on that third day. I read that story to them both together, and I included some of the words in kind of what we said at Bella's funeral, and on Bella's leaf in the Rainbow Garden it says, "Wherever you are, our love will find you."
Yeah, such precious moments, aren't they?
This is a charity run by bereaved parents, for bereaved parents, and all of their counsellors are bereaved parents. And we went and started having these weekly sessions, and they were just incredible. Absolutely incredible. They are a part of our lives now, and will be forever.
Do you know, it's so important that you make connections with these people, because they get it, whereas the people, your family and friends, want to support you and love and support you. These people that have been through this experience personally, you don't have to explain it to each other, do you? Because you just get each other. It's
Absolutely.
like your tribe.
They have an understanding as fellow bereaved parents that nobody else has. I did think at the time, it must be really hard for anyone to know what to say to us right now. It's a very unique situation, but what do you say? One thing that really annoys me is when, and it's not just about, around bereavement, but it's if someone's just upset or emotional, it's when someone goes and says, "I understand how you're feeling." That
They don't.
They don't. And
No.
But even fellow bereaved parents, I would say they don't understand, because they are not you. And if I'm giving any advice to anyone, it's be very careful saying that you understand how someone's feeling, because it is kind of one of those go-to phrases, because you think it might comfort them to, I'm sharing your grief with you, but you cannot possibly understand what anybody else is going through. Even if you are a bereaved parent, your experience is different.
Absolutely.
And when I'm in school with working with the children, if one of them is emotional or upset, I will never say, "I understand how you're feeling, but I understand that you're feeling sad. I understand this." I will never say that. Just like I will never say, "Don't worry." Because what a stupid thing to say.
Yeah.
Because, you've told me not to worry, then I
just
won't
stop
worry,
worrying
that's
then.
fine then. Or, calm down.
if only
All
it was
right, I
that
will.
easy. Yeah.
But, I would just say, don't ignore someone who's grieving. That's one of the worst things that can be done.
Yeah.
Say something. Don't ignore them, but just try and, just keep it simple. You may well say the wrong thing. You may well say, "I understand," and you don't. But knowing that somebody is there for you, even if they've said the wrong thing, you can get past that, because you understand, what do you say?
Yeah, I
You-
think
you
it's
understand
important that they acknowledge it,
Yeah.
so your grief feels validated.
Absolutely. And, we were very fortunate that, we've got such a loving family around us, such good friends and neighbours around us, and they all supported us, and they all reached out. And even if you just say, do you know what, I don't know what to say in this situation, but I am here and I'm thinking about you. That's all you need to say. You don't say anything more than that. Unfortunately, I personally did also have experiences, and I won't go into detail. I certainly won't name anyone, because they will know full well who they are. There were very significant people in my life who completely blanked me.
Yeah.
And not just for a week or so, for months. And when I eventually went to them, they said, we thought it best to leave you alone. Well, that was the worst thing they could have done.
Yeah.
So, I would urge anyone, no matter how hard it may be, it's not as hard for you as it is for the person who's experiencing that bereavement. Just let them know that you're there.
Yeah.
But just be careful with what you say. You don't understand, but just let them know that you're there.
Yeah. Do you know, one of the main reasons I wanted to start this podcast was to help society become more grief literate, because I feel, we're getting better at talking about mental health, but when it comes to grief, people just don't want to go there because it makes them feel awkward.
Absolutely.
They don't know what to say, they don't know what to do. And some people will just completely cross the road. We've all had those scenarios because, don't know what I might make it worse. And I understand their intentions may be good, but that really hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see it, working with children, it's hard, especially with children, explaining about death.
Yes.
And how to manage grief. But it is part of life.
Yes.
And you can't run away from it. And you've got to be shown ways of managing it. And one of the RE lessons, units that I have to teach to my year sixes is all about death and kind of worldviews about the afterlife and how do people kind of deal with death. And I only taught it for the first time a few months ago, and it was a really hard one for me to teach for obvious reasons.
How did you do that?
It was tough, but my class, fortunately, they were a brilliant class. They were absolutely fab, and they knew my situation. They knew that I'd lost one of my little girls. They've known that from the start, because I have always been transparent, because I think that's important.
Yeah.
And they were. It's a big class. There were 36 kids in that class, but every single one of them, they understood that. And actually, when I was teaching those lessons, they would say to me, "Are you okay?"
Oh, it's so sweet, isn't it?
And I mean, that just goes to show what kind of school I work in.
Yeah.
They're all like that. But as I was teaching this, I was thinking to myself, this is a hard thing for children to understand. And what is there out there that can help these children understand? There are some, there's little videos that you can watch. There are some children's books, but they're kind of aimed at like 4 or 5 year olds.
Yeah.
And then they're lovely books, and they are really helpful for that age. Really nice picture books and things like that. But I just thought there's not really anything for the older children, because those who can actually, they have a better understanding and they want a deeper understanding, but where is the support for them? And you can go and speak to counsellors, which is fantastic that the schools can provide those. You can go and read up on how to manage grief in textbooks and things, but it's like, but these are still children. What is there? And I mean that's one of the reasons why I've written my book.
Yeah,
so
which I want to talk about, because I think it's really good coming from a perspective as a bereaved parent. You're the expert.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your book. So what's it called?
So it's called Whispers of a Purple Butterfly.
Okay. Now, you say that writing became a way of processing your grief, and I totally understand that, because I find writing helps me as well.
Yeah.
But what inspired you to turn it into a children's book?
I've always loved writing. Throughout my university days, the courses I did were very writing heavy. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of reading and then going writing long essays every week. But I loved it. So I've always been a very keen writer. And as a teacher, I love teaching writing and things and encouraging that in children. And also like journaling. I'd encourage anyone to just keep a journal just informally to help with your emotional management, no matter what you're going through. And it's probably about a month or 6 weeks after the twins were born, and I just sat down, I opened my laptop. I'm someone, I always have to be doing something. I'm not good at sitting still. So I'm just going to start writing. And then I just thought, well, hang on, when Penny is old enough to understand a bit more about what her life is, she's going to need help.
Yeah.
And what is there? Not a lot. And so my first thought was, I'm going to write something so Penny can read it when she's old enough. But I want it to be something that's, for a really heavy subject, I want it to be a nice, enjoyable story.
Yeah.
So I started, I had a few ideas in my head, but I thought, right, I'm just going to start writing. And that's what I did. I had this vague idea, but I didn't really know where I was going with it. I just started writing, and then the kind of like days and weeks went on, and I got to this point where I was like, I've got quite a lot here. This could turn into something more that could help other people. But what I wasn't quite realising in that moment was that was my therapy.
Yeah.
And it helped me understand my own grief by thinking about what Penny is, what Penny might feel, and the help that Penny might need when she's old enough. I was kind of thinking, well, what do I need as well?
Yeah.
What do I need to hear as the parent? And so it just kind of like, it just grew and grew. And then I thought, I've got a whole story here.
Yeah.
And I want to share this story. And I think this is a really important story that could help a lot of people. I finished writing it, and then I just kind of, I left it. And I left it for, I did send it out to a couple of publishers initially, just to think, well, I'm just going to see what the situation is. And I did have 2 or 3 offers from publishers, which I was really excited about at first, but actually just thinking more on it, it wasn't the right time. So I just put it to one side, and probably about a year passed. And then I thought, right, I want to go back to this book now, and I want to fine tune it. I want to reread it with fresh eyes now, because I'm in a different headspace as well. And I want to actually pursue this. I want to publish this, because I not only want it to help surviving twins like Penny when she's old enough, but I want it to be for any child who is maybe a bit older. So this isn't a book for 4 and 5-year-olds. This is for kind of like 8 plus, I would say. But I'd say kind of upper primary, lower secondary age. That's the kind of main age for this book. But I want it to be for anyone who's suffered any kind of bereavement, any kind of grief. I want it to be for anyone who, they may not be bereaved, but they have emotional difficulties. They might be neurodivergent and they struggle with that. I want this to be for families to understand their children's mind. I want this to be for teachers and Senkos in schools working to support children who are grieving. And so it became this thing that's like, this actually is a book for so many people. And ultimately, I also wanted it to be just a really good story for any child to read, no matter, whether they take a meaningful message and learn from it, or they just read it and think, that was a really good story. I enjoyed that. Because, it's full of kind of mystery and magic and things like that. But there's a lot of realism in this as well. So there's a lot in this book that people will read and they won't think anything of it, but actually there's a lot of meaning for me.
Yes.
And like when Naomi read it, she understood every word, because it's actually, a lot of this story is our story of Penny and Bella. It's something...
It will resonate with a lot of other people.
Yeah.
I had a sneak preview because it is available on Amazon.
Yes.
And I read it and thought, you said this was a children's book. I was like, I want to read this book. I'm 67. I think, like you say, it's going to help so many people.
Well, I really hope it does. And, this is part of Bella's legacy as well. So that makes it even more important. But 7 of my class last year, who I did choose them carefully, I went to their parents and I said, I'd like them to have a few chapters of my book to read, and then I want to have a meeting with them, and my editor's going to come in and we're going to have a chat. I'm going to get feedback from them.
Yes.
And on the inside page of the book, they've all written reviews of the book, and they're all there, all 7 of these children, who were absolutely brilliant. And I said to them, don't just say you liked the book because your teacher's written it. This is a chance to say your teacher's a rubbish writer and I didn't like it. But actually, every single one of them, they said, I could not put this down. I'm desperate to find out what happened next. And they kept on saying, when's it going to be out? When's it going to be out? And so that was really great kind of market research.
And children are so honest.
If
they didn't like it, they would tell you, wouldn't
they would tell me as well. But that was really valuable. But also, I'd met with kind of professional therapists, and I'd spoken to midwives and doctors and got their opinions. Am I saying the right thing here? I'd spoken to Senkos. As an experienced teacher myself as well, I'd like to think I know what I'm talking about too.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the feedback I've had so far has been from adults who've read the book.
Yeah.
And it's been really lovely to hear that they've said, do you know what? I have got so much from this, and I've learnt so much from this about how to support a child, about how to support a family who's experiencing grief of whatever kind. And so while, yes, it is a book for older children, it is a book for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I want to put the link to that on the show notes. So if people want to get hold of it, it's called Whispers of a Purple Butterfly. It's available on Amazon.
It is.
And I hope people will buy it and get a lot from it. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for giving me the chance to.
Now, I want to go back to the Purple Butterfly because you also talked about the Sky High Foundation, who introduced you to the Purple Butterfly. Now, I had to Google that. Could you explain what that symbol means for anybody who hasn't heard of it?
Yeah, well, we'd never heard of it either. And then the twins were born, and we received this another little kind of package, which was another really beautiful little kind of gift box with lots of purple things in, like little purple butterfly pin badges and wristbands and a little teddy bear and a purple candle and a sticker of a purple butterfly that was like a cot card. And the idea is, you put the purple butterfly in a surviving twin or triplet or whatever in their cot in hospital, so that people don't have to keep asking you questions. It's a sign to anybody in a hospital, this is a surviving child of a multiple pregnancy, that, other children in the pregnancy have not survived. So we need to be very sensitive to that. We need to not go and probe and ask loads of questions, because otherwise the parents will have to go through it over and over and over again. And even, other parents with their babies on Skaboo, they might make comments that aren't helpful. Not in any kind of hurtful way, they don't mean it. But if I'm correct, the kind of origin of the Sky High Foundation and this purple butterfly was when the founder, Millie, she was in hospital having lost one of her twins, and one of the adults in the room made a loud comment, something to do with twins, or thank goodness we haven't got more than one, or something like that.
Oh dear.
And you've got this poor lady who's just lost one of her children, and she's heard that, and she just said, I'm doing something about this. I'm going to make sure no one else who is in this situation has to go through what I've just gone through. And that's how their foundation kind of started. I hope I've got that story right, and I'm sorry, Millie, if I haven't. But
what a beautiful way to honour the children that died.
Yeah.
And because they're part of the family still.
And that purple butterfly symbol
Yeah.
has got such powerful meaning for us now as a family.
Yeah.
So I always wear my purple wristband, which has the little butterfly on. This is from the Sky High Foundation.
Yeah.
And I also have a little purple butterfly pin badge that I always wear. That's me kind of like carrying Bella with me everywhere.
Yeah.
And in pretty much every room in our house, there's some kind of little trinket or just subtle little butterfly ornament. In the garden, there's a little, we've got little butterfly ornaments just hanging in the apple tree and things like that. Just as subtle little nods.
Just brings you comfort, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people will ask me about the purple butterfly badge that I'm wearing. I wear it on my jacket at school. All the children want to ask about it. Yeah. And I will tell them,
There's an opportunity to talk about Bella.
It is.
Because she's still part of your life.
She is. She is our daughter.
Yeah.
She is, we've got two children.
Yeah.
Penny and Bella. And just because she's not here in body doesn't mean she's not here.
Yeah.
And, we are always very proud to talk about Bella. And we are proud to say that we have twin daughters.
Yes.
It's a difficult thing to talk about. And it's a difficult question, how many children do you have? Because we've got 2 children, but then people say, well, where's the other one then?
Yeah.
So, do we say, well, we've got 1 child, but then it feels actually hurtful to even say that out loud, because no, we've got 2 children. Bella is our child.
I totally get that. I've done a blog about it and a podcast on this subject because it is such a big thing for parents that have lost children.
Yeah. And so, this little symbol and even just the colour purple, that's Bella's colour. Yeah. So I will almost always wear something purple. I've got purple shoes on today. And, my book, Whispers of a Purple Butterfly, that purple butterfly is a really essential theme that runs throughout the book and brings mystery and meaning. And, that comes from the Sky High Foundation, who have supported us and still do support us, and so many, and they're amazing for what they do.
And I love the fact that they use a butterfly, because butterflies represent transformation.
Yeah.
And I believe that when a body dies, they don't die. Their soul, or whatever you want to call it, goes on to another life, and it's a way of representing transformation. So I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Now, when it was time to say goodbye to Bella, your father conducted Bella's funeral.
Yeah.
So he's a reverend?
Yeah, so he's a retired vicar. I mean, he says he's retired. He still works a lot. He actually, I don't know if you can say specialises, but he specialises in funerals.
Okay.
He's always been incredibly gifted at funerals in particular.
I think you need to be a certain way, don't you?
Yeah.
You've probably got sort of the right manner to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been very, very gifted at talking to people in really difficult times, such as bereavement. And there was no hesitation. He said, I am doing this.
Yeah.
And he was really, really obviously supportive to us, but he explained everything, like logistically, this is what happened, this is what, people normally do, but this is what I would suggest you do, but it's your decision. He would suggest, things like, I said, I don't want any music at the funeral, because music to me is so powerful and emotive.
Yeah.
If I hear that music anytime after the funeral, it will break me. And he understood that, but then he said, it's already going to be a really difficult emotional day. Doing it silently will make it harder. And he was right. And he actually came up with some ideas for some music.
Yeah.
And he helped us choose that music, and it was perfect. And yeah, anytime I do hear that music, it does break me. But there's there was one piece of music which was played in the funeral, a song called "Be Still My Soul," which anytime I even hear the opening notes for that, I'm gone. But I love that piece of music, and I always listen to it on the 6th of August, which is the day we found out that we lost Bella. I will listen to it on the 23rd of September, which is the anniversary of the funeral, because I want to hear it.
Yeah.
And it will make me cry every time.
Do you find that it brings you closer?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And there's another piece of music which is very powerful, which wasn't one of the pieces at the funeral, but it was the piece of music that was playing in theatre when the girls were born, which was Gabriel's Oboe, which I do actually feature in the book that I've written, just as a kind of in passing. But that is another piece of music that when I hear it, it really gets me.
Yeah.
So music is very powerful.
It is, yes.
But I mean, he did the funeral for us. He helped us. You know, we went and did a practice the day before. We went and he just said, "You need to know that when we come to do the real thing tomorrow, everything that we've talked about, everything that we've practiced means nothing, because actually we'll probably all be in bits."
I was going to say, it must be so difficult
Yeah.
for your dad to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he did it.
No.
I mean, the year before, my granddad passed away, so his dad, and he did the funeral.
Wow.
And he, I remember him saying he wanted me to be the one to do it, and I just can't imagine anyone other than me doing it.
Yeah.
And it was the same with Bella's funeral.
Yeah.
It had to be him. But this is his granddaughter we're talking about. And so it took huge strength from him to do it. But he went into that mode of, this is my job, I'm being a professional now. And he did hold it together. I don't know how. I didn't, Naomi didn't. We've written this eulogy, if you want to call it that. And, I started reading it and I couldn't read it. And Naomi, who was stood next to me, she basically took it off me and carried on reading, and then I could carry on when I felt able to. And but my dad was there next to us the whole time.
Yeah.
And that brought such comfort, knowing that he was there.
Yeah, so what a team.
Yeah.
Incredible. So your dad was a vicar and you studied theology.
I did.
So did your background in theology influence how you made sense of what happened?
It certainly made me question the role that God may have in the world, whether there is such a thing, and ultimately nobody can answer that question. It's down to what people believe, and we've got to respect what people believe. That's really important. But my beliefs were very strongly challenged. I, at first, like I said before, I was angry at the world.
Yeah.
Because how dare this happen to us? We are good people, and there's plenty of bad people out there who will have perfectly healthy children. Why is it that way? And, I did find myself saying, why would a loving God let this kind of thing happen? why? And then it's like, why us? It kept on, why us? And I was really challenged. My faith was seriously challenged. But that was the initial reaction.
Yeah.
That was the emotional reaction. And I'm not sure I've ever known fully what my beliefs actually are. I like to believe that there is something. I prefer to believe in God. That's been my upbringing as well. That's what I choose to believe.
Yes,
but
yeah.
But it was seriously
Yeah,
challenged.
And what are your thoughts about the afterlife now?
I like to believe that there is something beyond us. And don't get me wrong, there may not be. But I choose to believe there is.
Yeah.
And that brings me a lot of comfort because, I think about, both sets of grandparents who are no longer with us. And I think about how, okay, they are gone, but their spirits live on. And
Yes.
I like to think of them knowing about my life now. I wish they'd met Penny and Bella, but they didn't. But I'd like to think that they know about the girls. And one thing that has always brought me a lot of comfort is the idea that Bella right now is sat on my grandma or my granddad's lap, and they're giving her a cuddle and they're looking after her.
Yeah.
And that's really comforting to me. And we I say we had a dog. It was actually my in-laws' dog, but we saw him as ours as well because we saw them so often, and we actually lived with them for a year when they had the dog. And so little Woody, he probably in the start of 2024, he became really unwell, and it didn't look good. He went to the vet and think he had like an operation, and he pulled through and soldiered on. But we all knew he was getting quite frail. And anyway, he soldiered on, and he was still with us when the girls were born. And he got to meet Penny, and we just loved seeing Penny with this little dog who was just like, what do I do with this baby? What? About a month after the twins were born, he became really unwell again. And we had to say goodbye to little Woody, or Uncle Woody as we refer to him as now with Penny. And what brought me huge comfort, and this, one of these like little signs, these symbols that people choose to believe in, and I like to think of this, is that he held on long enough to meet Penny, check that she was okay, check that we were okay, and then he was almost like to say, my work here is done, and then off he went to go and check on Bella, and now he's with Bella.
I love that.
And to me, some people might listen to that and think, what are you talking about, you lunatic? It's a dog. But actually, pet owners will understand. Yeah. But to me, little Woody, he is that bridge between this world and Bella's world. He's that link between Penny and Bella. He's seen them both. He's with them both. Yeah. And like I say, some people might think, what are you going on about? But
do you know what? I'm totally with you on this, Richard. I believe there are like earth angels like Chloe and Jenna and Uncle Woody. I'm totally there with you, and I think a lot of my listeners will resonate with you. And a lot of my guests that I've had in on the podcast have talked about signs, and whether you believe in it or not, if it gives you comfort, it's a good thing. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big believer in signs.
And I mean, there have been a couple of other kind of signs over the last kind of nearly 2 years that have kind of...
Would you like to share that with us?
In our back garden, it's not a huge garden. In the months leading up to the twins being born, I made like a mini woodland area for them to play in when they were kind of like old enough to, be toddlers and things. And it's kind of around a little apple tree that we've got in the garden. I think it was last summer, so nearly a year after the twins were born, I was just outside gardening and I was doing some work in their little mini woodland. And I looked up, and there in the garden, in that apple tree, where we've got little kind of like ceramic butterfly ornaments and things, there was a purple butterfly.
Yeah.
And I had never in my life seen a purple butterfly before, other than a picture of one.
Yeah.
I'd certainly never seen one in our garden before, and I just thought, this is Bella saying hello.
Yeah.
And there'll be plenty of people who say it's a coincidence, and yeah, it probably was. But for me, that is a sign. That's a symbol, and that was really powerful for me and so special. And on the other side of the garden, we've got like a mini kind of vegetable patch, which isn't very big, but we call it Penny's patch. Okay. So we plant, fruit and veg in there, and she helps us go and water them with her little watering can, and it's the cutest thing you'll ever see. Last summer, these, in amongst all the fruit and veg, these kind of green shoots started to come up, and there were quite a lot of them. And I looked at them, I was like, well, they're weeds, so I need to just get rid of them. But something stopped me. I don't know what it was. I decided, no, I'll leave them. I'll just leave, because they might turn out to be like flowers or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were sunflowers. Oh. Now, I have never planted a sunflower seed in our garden. None of the surrounding gardens have sunflowers in. Now, the scientist in me says birds have dropped these seeds, or, they've been carried on the wind or whatever, and they landed in a garden and they've grown. So, that's what's happened. But we had at least 50 sunflowers in this tiny little patch. That's a lot of sunflowers.
Yes.
And what's more amazing about it is they were all in Penny's patch. Nowhere else in the garden, just in that little and it's not a big flower bed.
That's a sign.
And to me, I stand by it. This is just what I choose to believe. Even though I can explain it through science, I choose to believe that was Bella sending some colour and brightness into Penny's patch to say, I'm still with you, and I'm going to brighten this up. And that's what I choose to believe.
And I believe that too. I'm totally there with you. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, these things, it is amazing what you see. And that kind of idea of, I choose to believe it.
Yeah.
Somebody else might hear that story and say, you're off your rocker, mate.
Yeah.
And that's fine. They can think that. But I choose to believe it because it brings me comfort. And that's I'm going to go back to my book again, but that's a really key message in this book. Whatever brings you comfort, if you want to believe that, then you believe that, and we will respect that.
Absolutely.
As long as it's not a belief that's actually quite detrimental and harmful to you, or you could see that's actually going to cause a lot of problems if you believe that.
Yeah.
But for something like, me seeing sunflowers growing or a purple butterfly, if I want to choose to believe that that is Bella showing me a sign that she's okay and she's still with us in her own way, then I'm going to believe that.
Yeah. And it brings you comfort. It makes you feel closer to them.
Yeah.
So, there's absolutely no harm in that at all. Now, if Bella could know one thing about the impact she's had on your life, what would you want her to know?
I mean, the first thing is, I'd want her to know that she is our daughter. She is Penny's twin sister. It's not she was Penny's sister. It's not she was our daughter. She is. She is as much part of our family as anyone else. I'd want her to know that. I want her to know that we talk about her every day. Even if it's just a quick mention of her name in passing.
Yeah.
She is part of who we are. She's not with us in body, but she lives on through us and within us, and we carry her with us, and she is as much loved now as she ever has been, and as much loved as anyone else, because she's our daughter.
Yeah.
And we love her.
And she always will be.
She absolutely always will be. And we are proud of her. And she got to spend all those months with Penny.
Yes.
In her mummy's tummy. And, you know, we went on a little baby moon, I think they call it, a little holiday before the baby's born. We went to Menorca, and both of the girls were kicking around when we were walking on this nice beach in Spain. And so, you know, we say, you came on a holiday with us.
Yes.
And there was a really lovely picture of the twins. I think it was we had a 16-week scan where we found out they were two girls. And it looked like they were cuddling each other. It was like there was a big spoon and a little spoon. And for us, they were having a cuddle.
Yeah.
So I'd want Bella to know that your sister knows about you, and we will keep on talking about you. We are going to be, I mean, we already do, and we will carry on letting Penny know, you've got a sister.
Yeah.
You are a twin. And it will get more complicated in future years to help her understand more, hence me writing this book.
Yeah.
But I want Bella to know that she is alive within us every single day, and we will always love her.
Yeah.
And also her, you know, I talked earlier about a legacy. Bella's legacy through, you know, me doing things like this, coming and talking about it to try and help other people, through me writing this book and hopefully helping lots and lots of people. That's thanks to Bella. That obviously I wish I didn't have to be here saying this. I actually have Bella to thank that I can help people now.
Wow, that leads me to my final question.
Okay.
What gift, if any, has grief given you?
That's a really tricky one, because people certainly don't associate grief with being a gift.
No.
You know, that word grief is, well, that's a bad thing. And yeah, it is. Nobody wants to feel grief. But I'd say grief has shown me and taught me more about love. I've always been someone who's been very caring and very loving, and at least I hope I come across that way anyway. But the grief that we have experienced and still experience and will experience every day of our lives as bereaved parents, we have learnt a new love, a new way of caring for people, and just a new appreciation for what we do have, a new way of looking at life and the world around us, being able to see the big picture and not dwell on things that are actually just trivial things. And actually, do you know what? There's more important things than that. So grief has opened my eyes, but I'd say that the gift is love rather than grief. But grief has shown me that path to love. Yeah. So that kind of is the gift that grief has kind of given me, and that gift I can then, in what I'm doing now and hope to carry on doing, is to go and share that love and support in the world.
Do you know what? You are incredible. And you're here talking such wise words. And these words, this episode is going to help so many people.
I really hope it does.
Grieving whatever loss they're experiencing. So thank you so much for sharing your family's story with such honesty and courage. Bella has clearly left an enduring legacy. Through your love for both Bella and Penny, your openness about grief, and your beautiful book, Whispers of a Purple Butterfly, you're helping other families feel seen, understood, and a little less alone. And your story reminds us that grief and joy can exist side by side. That it's possible to celebrate one life while grieving another, and that love doesn't end when someone dies, it simply finds new ways to be expressed. So to everyone listening, if today's conversation has resonated with you, please know that you're not alone. Whether you've experienced the loss of a baby, a child, or any significant loss, there is support available. If you'd like to find out more information about Richard's book or the organisations we talked about today, you'll find all the links in the show notes. There is no cure for grief. We don't get over it, we learn to carry it. Grief needs to be felt, it needs to be processed, it needs to be cared for and nurtured, and most importantly, it needs to be loved. In time, we may even learn to embrace it, and as we do, our lives begin to grow around our grief, allowing joy and sadness to exist side by side as part of our story. If you've enjoyed this episode of A Gift for Grief, please follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please leave a review or share this episode with someone who may need to hear it. It really does help these important conversations reach more people. So Richard, thank you so much, and give Naomi a big hug from me.
I certainly will, and I really appreciate being invited on to share the story, and thank you, and I really hope that it helps lots of other people.
I'm sure it
Thank
will.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of A Gift for Grief. If you found it comforting, please consider subscribing to my podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Please also leave a review because it helps others to find the show. Together we can help each other become more grief literate. To learn more about my personal journey and my 2 books on grief, visit www.louisebates.co.uk. The music on this podcast was written and recorded by my son Matthew Bates and can be found on his 2 albums, Fight Back and Kaleidoscope. And finally, if you're struggling with grief or concerned about your mental health, please reach out to your doctor. You don't have to go through this alone. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, and thank you for listening.